All right, friends, we have Nita Sweeney on Hot Mess Espresso today. She is a mindfulness coach and an author. So, Nita, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, glad to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, it's finally warming up here in the Northeast. Did
Yeah,
you did you get hit with that like super cold snap with all the snow?
I think we had about 3 inches here, but it's all gone now.
Yeah, it's pretty much melted here. I like the snow. So, when I woke up and there was like some snow, I was like, "Yay." And then it melted because, winters up here last for about 5 seconds. But yeah, thanks for coming on and talking to us. So you have a book about running. How did you get there?
Oh, well, it's actually a book about mental health, but it
Right,
has a
yeah.
lot of running in it. But no,
So how did you
so
start running? Because that's
yeah,
that's a
it
very
was
intentional habit to get into.
it was an accident.
Oh.
I was in a really kind of I was in a really tough place in my life.
Hmm.
I'd been in tough places before, but this was tough. We'd lost a ton of people in one year, including my 24-year-old niece and my mother. And I have chronic depression, so I'm
Hmm.
always kind of cycling in and out of different phases of that.
Hmm.
And I had tried a lot of things. I have therapy, I take meds, I still do that. But
Hmm.
I was on social media and I saw a high school friend who posted the magic words, "Call me crazy, but this running is getting to be fun." And I thought that was probably the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah,
That
I
the
would
words
actually
run,
call you, yeah, crazy.
fun,
Yep,
and
that.
run, no, fun and run, no.
No.
I thought we should do a wellness check, but we didn't. And what's important about that,
Blink twice if you need help.
yeah, what's important about that is that she was a year older than me
Hmm.
and about the same size as I was then. I knew her to not be relatively, athletic.
Hmm.
Neither one of us were in sports. We rode horses. I was in the marching band, but not athletes by
Right.
any means of the imagination. And so I watched, and she was indeed having fun. She was doing this training plan called Couch to 5K, and she would just post, day one, week one, done. And it's just one of those plans that kind of eases you into exercise. And
Okay.
so at that point, I was so depressed and anxious and overweight and exhausted. Really, the exhaustion was the thing that I
Hmm.
could barely walk the dog around the block. So I kept watching her. And eventually I looked up the plan. And the first words on the plan were 60 seconds of jogging. And I thought, maybe 60 seconds, I can do that. I think I can do
Right.
that. And I don't think I started that day. I think I had like a bout of hiccups or something that put me back in bed because just sneezing would put me back in bed sometimes. But
Yeah.
eventually I got our dog out and I leashed him up and took him down in this ravine area where there's no one could see.
Hmm.
And I carried a digital kitchen timer with me because 60 seconds, because I'm
Hey,
kind of a
it
precision
works.
geek. Yeah. And um, I jogged for 60 seconds. Now, the plan had more than that. It had walking and intervals, and you did the interval over and over. I think
Hmm.
the whole workout was maybe 20 minutes. But I was able to do it. And that was the first time in a long time that I had been able to finish something that I started.
Hmm.
And first time in a long time I'd done anything other than try to walk the dog around the block.
Right.
So that's how it started. And then some other things happened that led me to run longer and longer distances until now it's sort of my thing I do on a regular basis. And um, yeah, one of my loves. But it was. I mean, I did not open social media looking for help. I did
Hmm.
not think that running would help in any way. But yeah, I like to say that you never want to dismiss the fact that somebody might be watching. And I didn't
Yeah.
tell her for a long time that I started that and that it was because of her.
Hmm.
But that's what happened, and it was really unintentional.
Now, has Have you paid that forward? Has somebody taken up running because you posted about it?
Apparently, because the book is selling like crazy. So, so
Well,
the story I just told you is, I mean, not
hmm
like not like New York Times bestseller, but better than
right.
any of my other books. Let's just say that.
hmm
But yeah, people message me, strangers.
hmm
They are on my newsletter list. That's my favorite place for people to be.
hmm
And they email me and say, I would never have thought about. I just signed up for a 5K. How did that happen? It's your fault. Things like that. But more importantly, they tell me that me sharing what was going on in my mind at that time and how running helped with that, how the dark place I was in, and how, well, running didn't cure that. There's no way it cured that, but it helped with the thoughts and the feeling like I couldn't accomplish anything, and then the stamina actually made it possible for me to do things that I had wanted to do but never could, like finish a book, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so they tell me thank you for all of that, and that's weird in a way because I know that if people are thanking me, that means I would say they've touched the darkness, because it doesn't resonate. My story is not going to resonate with somebody who hasn't had more than the occasional bad day. They'll think,
Right.
why is this woman so depressed? What is wrong with her? You're going to, they're rolling their eyes if it's not my
Yeah.
reader. But the people that the book is meant for, and that really all my books are meant for,
hmm
are people who have seen that tough time and are finding ways to stay, I would say, stay on the planet, regardless of how painful it can be sometimes to have depression and bipolar.
Yeah.
And um, and then there's my dog, and my dog was great. I have another dog now, and I just love pets. So
Yeah.
people resonate with that too. They resonate with the spending time with your pet and that friggin'
Yep.
unconditional love. There's just nothing like it.
It really is. Yeah. Speaking of, you're like talking about this, and my dog literally came up under the desk with her cookie. It was just like, Mom, fetch. So I'm just over here, like, let me just throw it down that way. And then if you guys heard the squeaking, she came in squeaking it, and now she's on the other side of the desk, like, just looking very adorable.
That's
But yeah,
fantastic. That's fantastic.
this
Oh, it's
is
perfect. That's
yeah, this
perfect.
is just literally the chaos. It honestly, I feel you on the pets because I would not be here without them. So, and if you know,
Yeah.
because until you've been in that dark place, and I've said this a few times on the podcast, like my one cat being a very needy, high maintenance little man is the reason I'm still here, because I was like, oh, I can't do that to him. So, unless you have no idea when somebody's like, I'm staying here for my cat, and people are like, huh? Like, that's your reason? It's like, it's a legit reason, so shh.
Hey, anything. I don't care what it is, whatever your reason is. So,
Exactly. But I love your title um of your first book. It was your first book, correct?
depression hates a moving target, right?
Depression Hates a Moving Target.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And that's actually what, when we connected, that is what drew me to you, because I love a good, I don't know, it just seemed like a little bit of a like sarcastic title in a way. And I, sarcasm is my first language. So for me, I was just like, ooh, Depression Hates a Moving Target. Like that's clever. And that's what made me like reach back out to you. But um you had said in a previous conversation, and I'm just looking down at my notes right now because who I am as a person, you realized that there was something missing out of the first book. What was that, and where'd you go from there?
Well, it was mentioned, but it's meditation.
Right.
And I definitely mentioned it. And I talked about, well, I'll just say that I mentioned it. But what I didn't, and what I thought I had made clear, but possibly didn't. Some people say I did, some people say I didn't. It just depends.
Right.
I didn't make it as clear that I was meditating while I was running pretty much from the beginning, because
Mm-hmm.
I had been meditating long before I took up running, many
Right.
years before, a decade before at least. And in fact, I was on Zoom call with a small class. A friend of mine teaches writing, and they kept asking me, well, I know, but how did you do it? How did you get started? How did you do it? And years of meditation practice where
Mm-hmm.
you set a timer and you just sit when the bell goes off. You sit, and then you do the practice until the bell goes off again.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with writing practice, which is a form of meditation for me.
Right.
You keep your hand moving. You start moving, your hand moving, and you keep moving until the timer goes off. And so, in a way, I already had that mindset
Mm-hmm.
of you make this choice. And so it was perfect. In fact, I mentioned that I think in one of the early chapters about that digital timer that I took into the ravine was already my
Right.
friend because I used it for meditation practice and writing practice
Right.
already. And so now I was using it for running, for these intervals of running.
Hey, if it ain't
And,
broke,
huh?
if it ain't
Right,
broke, don't fix it. It
right,
worked.
exactly. Um, and I didn't think of that when I first started running, but when I was writing the book, I did think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not that training, that mental training that comes from meditation, and that maybe call it responsibility or commitment, that when I make a choice, I'm going to do my best to finish it,
Right.
even if it's just 60 seconds. Not everybody has that. And so I didn't explain that quite as well, I think, as I could have in the book, which is why I was really happy to have the chance to write this, it's actually kind of my third book, but the second actual book, because the second book
Mm-hmm.
was really a journal, Make Every Move a Meditation, where I talk specifically about meditating while I'm running and how
Right.
that practice helps with, especially long distance running, where you're bored, you're tired, you hurt, you're also having some joy, but there's all the things together. And for some people, that's a non-starter. That they can't do that. That's not
Right.
they don't want to do that, and they don't have to. I'm not saying you have to, but that's a piece I just wish I'd hit a little bit harder,
Mm-hmm.
because in Depression Eats Moving Target, because it really helped once I got the physical benefits of running on top of the mental benefits of meditation. It was this, it was like being on steroids. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
wellness on steroids in a way, because
Mm-hmm.
it just boosted the things that I was already doing that were keeping me alive, but it just added that extra layer. So that's the thing. I think if there's anything that, a book is, they always say that writers don't end books, they just abandon them because at some point there's a deadline and you just have to hand it off to somebody else.
Right.
And so that's the part that I didn't feel like I made the best connection between how being a meditator helped me keep running, show up, and also helped with my mental health, because I had that kind of foundation that not everybody has.
Right. So with the meditation, because I know I know I struggle with meditation, and a lot of it has to do with my ADHD, because some people are like, oh my God, I meditate for like a half hour every day. I'm like, I'm antsy after 5 minutes. So for people that are struggling to get into meditation, what is a tip from your just personal experience of how to find little ways to meditate that doesn't involve like really super like diving into it, I guess? Like what are little, because obviously running, you meditate while you run. What are some like little ways that people can start getting into meditation?
Well, the first is just do it for a minute. Just set your timer for a minute and do your best to sit still, because
Mm-hmm.
when the body is still, then it's more likely that the mind will calm down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when the mind wanders, which it will, because that's what minds do.
Mm-hmm.
The only minds that don't wander are dead minds.
Literally.
So, I'm serious. um,
Honestly, I feel kind of validated in that, because sometimes I feel like mine's running a mile a minute. So the fact
yeah,
that you said that, I'm just over here like, you know what? You're right.
yeah, no, it is. It's fine. And also notice the self-judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Notice the thoughts that are saying, oh, this is too hard. I'm not good at this. This is stupid. I don't know why people do this. I'll never be able to do this. All that, that thought train. But notice the quality of judgment. Because if you were having thoughts of, I like pie. Wow, what's for dinner? Coffee sounds good right now. Often if you have those kinds of thoughts, then meditation is not unpleasant because you're just having pleasant thoughts. But usually it's the judgmental thoughts that make it painful. And simply noticing that you are thinking is meditating. So that's the other part of it, is I would take a look at what you're defining as meditation, because there's a lot of misconceptions that you have to be, that you're not actually meditating if your mind isn't quiet. And that is just not true. That is just absolutely not true.
Oh my God, that makes me feel so much better.
Oh yeah.
That's like the thing. Everybody's like, oh, I just, and then it's silent. And I'm like, what do you mean it's silent?
No, it's probably not. Or either that they've done it for a long time, or they have a skill that we don't. Because my mind is very busy. It's very busy. Now, if you practice it, it will calm, but it'll never stop. I hear you, doggo. I hear you.
She's very vocal today.
It's okay. My dog's over there, but she's being quiet. So
yeah, sometimes I get through episodes and I'm just like, you weren't chaotic today. Like, girl, we have a brand to uphold, and then other days she's just yep. And I'm like, okay, it's a little too on brand. Can we take it down a notch?
She just wants to play along. They're so
good. Well, she's an Australian Shepherd. I mean, you're not gonna make those dogs quiet ever.
Yeah. They always need a job. They need a job. Yeah.
They do. And her job is to herding the cats.
So. Yeah, that's great. But does that help that I actually have a download about meditation myths, and that's the biggest one, is that, oh, my mind is too noisy. I can't meditate. Yeah. Well, that means your mind is alive. That means you're alive. And so the question is more what to do with that. And it's noticing any judgment that you're issuing on yourself, or could be other people too. Well, if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't be thinking about it, and I could be meditating quietly. If he wasn't, so it can go both ways. It can go
absolutely
to us or to someone else. If the coffee wasn't so hot, I wouldn't. We can go any place. But the awareness that I am thinking is meditation. Oh, I'm currently thinking, because the bottom line with meditation is about being in the moment with whatever is happening, whether it's a chaotic mind, whether it's unpleasant body sensations, your foot falls asleep or your back hurts. And we call it infusing it with equanimity. So being able to be present to whatever comes up during the period of time you have selected to meditate. So if that's 1 minute, if that's 5 minutes, if that's half an hour, that's your selected interval. If you're running, it's a mile, it's half a mile, it's a quarter of a mile, or time period. And choosing to notice what is happening. Now, a lot of times we start with the breath because everybody breathes, and so it's sort of a common denominator. Not everybody's running, not everybody's hearing bird songs or dog squeaky toys. So so we often choose with the breath. And then you get the in-breath, the out-breath, the in-breath, the inhale, exhale, pie, inhale, exhale. What's for dinner? And notice I have a food theme going here. I might be hungry. Yep. But and then going, oh, that's right, I was meditating. And then gently bringing the mind back without adding an extra layer of what we call story or judgment on top of it. Oh, that's right. I had chosen to meditate for this minute, so I'm going to bring my mind back. And then when the bell goes off, you're done. So that's kind of the way I like to talk about it, because people just have so many misconceptions about what it actually is.
That just for me made meditating and just meditation so much more accessible for me with the way my brain works.
Right.
So
you've got.
I really appreciate that one.
Oh, good. Because we're given the brains we're given, and we can train them, but it's not going to happen like flipping a switch.
Oh God,
It
no,
isn't.
no.
It's a slow process.
It's like training a puppy almost.
There's actually in my book, Make Every Move a Meditation, I talk about that exact metaphor because
Hmm.
would you kick a puppy across the room? No.
No.
You would very gently bring it back to where you want it with love
Yep.
and kindness and care.
Hmm. Yeah. We can do that to dogs and cats. We can't do that to ourselves for some reason.
Yeah, we have to work at it.
We
We
really
have to
do.
practice it. And it starts with noticing though.
Yeah.
Because trying to force ourselves to be nice doesn't work either. But
No.
noticing, man, I am really mean to myself. Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
That's okay. And noticing that, and then sometimes just the awareness will help relax that a little bit. But just repeated awareness.
Exactly. Then that's all you can do is just be aware and go from there for sure. So, your mindfulness coach, did that kind of come organically from when you were writing, or was that something you always wanted to do? Like, how'd you get there?
Well, it actually started when I first started meditating in the long time ago, let's just say.
Hmm.
Um, my husband and I coordinated meditation retreats,
Ooh.
and I found we brought in other teachers,
Hmm.
and then we had a group at our house, and I found myself able to, even though I had only been meditating a couple of years, I found it easy to answer beginners' questions.
Hmm.
And again, I think I have the kind of mind that took to meditation pretty naturally.
Yeah.
Not everybody does. And
Hmm.
so, and I also, I don't know, I just have a kind of personality where I like to teach and be
Hmm.
helpful. And so that's sort of where it started. And then I kind of got sidetracked for a long time. And then during the pandemic, I'd been meditating all those years and studying with different teachers. And during the pandemic, there was an opportunity for me to go to online a
Hmm.
meditation teacher certification, a leader to lead groups. And then there was also an online certification program related to that. And
Hmm.
so I did that, and it just felt like a really good fit. I'd been coaching mostly writers for a long time, and we were
Hmm.
doing kind of a meditation practice a lot of times in my classes when I taught. I would have them sit, do some meditation, some walking meditation, in
Right.
addition to the writing practice, reading aloud with no comment, which is kind of a meditative thing.
Hmm.
And so when there was the opportunity to actually have a formal training with a Zen master, and then a formal certification with the International Mindfulness Teachers Association, I
Hmm.
just hopped on it. And so since then, I mean, I probably have been a mindfulness coach for a very long time, but now I can actually say I am. I have a piece of paper that says,
Hmm. Yeah.
says I am.
Hey.
And yeah, and what's interesting is I work with lawyers. I was an attorney for about a decade, and so I have worked with a few lawyers. I teach continuing legal education programs sometimes,
Hmm.
and there's always that component of where are you right now? What's going on right now?
Hmm.
Not what's the case you're studying, not what's the trial you're preparing for, not what's your boss doing or your subordinates doing. Where are you right now? And bringing people back to this moment, which is where all the power is actually. And then the same thing with the writers. And then more recently, since I've been running, I've added running, and I write articles for. There's a local running group here in town that I belong to, and I write some kind of mental health / mindfulness articles for them.
Hmm.
So that's, yeah, it kind of was just this natural evolution of my personality and all the experiences I've had. And so I don't have some um, outside technique that I apply. I
Hmm.
try to figure out where the person is at this point and kind of who they are too. I'm sort of a personality typing junkie, so I study the
Oh, we love that.
Enneagram and the Clifton strengths and things like that. And so I try to kind
Hmm.
of figure out um, what their fears and drivers are, and
Hmm.
come up with a plan that can help with who they are, as opposed to me having some outside structure that I'm trying to superimpose on them.
No, that makes complete and total sense. Now, when it comes to mindfulness, what are some of the myths that you hear? Because when you think of mindfulness, you immediately think like what? The 5 things you can see, 4 things you can, that breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously mindfulness from what you're describing is a lot more than just that. So what are some myths with mindfulness that you like, what's 1 or 2 that you're just like,
Well, we
that's
already
not
talked.
what this is like?
Yeah, this is not how any of that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one we talked about is actually the biggest one, is that I
Hmm.
can't, my mind is too busy. I can't meditate.
Right.
The second one is I have to have, I have to go somewhere, or I have to, um, go on a retreat, or have some really formal teacher, or there has to be some really rigid structure.
Hmm.
The other one, I don't get this one as much as I used to, but people will say, well, I don't want to be a Buddhist. Well, then don't. You
Oh
know,
my God.
yeah, no, I mean, because
No.
they think that that's, and it may be, they may be in a particular belief system, whether it's a religion or something else,
Right.
that is can be threatening to them. And so we talk about the fact that they don't have to believe anything. In
Hmm.
fact, the if they want the ultimate joke, the Buddha basically said, "Don't believe anything I say unless you experience it."
Exactly.
Yeah, so don't. So it's actually the opposite of what they're told, but because there's no worship, there's not.
Hmm.
We don't worship the Buddha. He's just some dude,
Yeah.
we
He's
believe
just a
existed. Yeah.
being kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's the thing. Buddhism is a beautiful religion, but like, good
Yeah.
Lord.
It doesn't. It's not even really a religion because there's no deity. I always
Yeah.
say it's kind of like it's. I always say that it's like tofu,
Hmm.
because it takes on the flavor of whatever it's around. And so, it came through Japan. It became Zen. That's the samurai, the warrior. It went to
Hmm.
Tibet, and that's much more magical. It's very diverse. It's kind of Baroque, if you will.
Hmm.
Here in America, it's very practical. How can this help me meet my ends? We're so goal oriented,
Yep.
and which is so funny because there are no goals really.
Yeah. I
But
mean, I literally have the Buddha
oh,
tattooed
you
on
do?
my arm.
Oh my God.
It's actually it's for my nephew. He was born on a full moon. That's why he's holding a full moon
Oh,
instead
that's
of
wonderful.
like I think the paddle that he usually holds. But it's a
Yeah,
very long
depends on
story
the.
as to why this goes back to my nephew. But I also get that all the time, like, oh, are you a Buddhist? And I'm like, Buddha's kind of like a state of being.
Yeah, it's a
And
practice
there's
more than.
nothing wrong with it. It's actually a very nice Zen, like we're all human kind of state of being.
Yeah, yeah.
It's wonderful.
So
So
I
yeah,
get that.
it
Yeah.
was funny that you said that because I was like, oh yep, I've heard that before a
Yeah,
few
I bet you
times.
have.
Like, oh man. So um, you had a book come out November 1st.
I
I mean,
did.
as of today, it's February 22nd. But and this so by the time this airs, it'll be out for a while.
Hmm.
It's your 365 meditation book.
Right.
Where can we find that, and like what got you to write that one? Or
So that book is called A Daily Dose of Now.
daily dose of now.
And
Okay.
yes, and I was meditating, and I
Mm-hmm.
am in recovery, and I was in a recovery meeting. And often at that time, I'm not sure it's discussed as much anymore, but we do talk about living one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And people were talking about, in fact, somebody brought up the topic in the recovery meeting of staying in the moment. And
Ooh.
as the comments went around the room, I thought it seemed odd because people primarily talked about how difficult that was, how they didn't know how to do that. Staying in the moment they knew it was important, but it wasn't something that they were good at,
For
or,
sure.
you know. And I kept thinking, wait a minute, why don't they know how to do that? And then about halfway through the meeting, I remembered that my husband and I had just come back from a mindfulness retreat where
Mm-hmm.
we had spent the entire weekend being in the moment, focusing on our breath, our body sensations, which a breath is one of,
Mm-hmm.
and our thoughts in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, oh, wait a minute, these people weren't there. That's why they don't know. That's why it was just sort of like my worlds collided.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there are a lot of, in recovery meetings or in recovery community, there's a lot of these 365 daily books that,
Mm-hmm.
they have a little quote. they have a little, what you might call a micro essay. It's just a few sentences
Right.
explaining it. And then sometimes it's a thought for a day, thought of the day, or a prayer. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we had a 365 book that was just about being mindful, how to be mindful just today.
Yeah.
One little tiny bite. And I didn't really think of it as a recovery book so much because I didn't want it to be that, not that that's narrow, that's actually a good niche, but I was thinking more of just in general for the world. Well, that was in 1993. And so I've been working on that book since 1993.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I was born in 1992. Like
exactly. So
okay,
you were a year old when I was thinking of this book. So
yeah,
that's a way to date myself. But
hey, you know what? If it took a while, that means it's pretty damn close to perfect.
I don't know about that, but but thank you. Yeah, but I just, it's one of those things where I would set it aside, pick it back up, set it aside, and as I would be reading something, a quote would seem, oh, I can use that one. And I did some NaNoWriMo where I did, 50 of them or 30 of them or these little entries, a bunch of those. And then this last year, really it was 2022, I decided, let's get this out. Let's get this out into the world. And so, yeah, that's what we did. And it's been very well received. I always wish all my books would sell better, but that's just the way it is. There's so much competition. But yeah, anybody who picks it up really likes it. It's so cute. It's just little, it's a little, you can just put it in your purse or your backpack. And it's just a page a day. And they're simple. They're things, my favorite one probably is when you walk through a doorway, notice which foot goes first. So feel which foot goes first. And that's just a moment of mindfulness, just that second right there. And that's it. That's it for the day.
That's so simple.
And then the little essays, often they're about, I basically write memoir. So they're about me. They're about me and how I apply whatever the particular practices that I'm suggesting. And the quotes are everything. I think there's one from the Bible, Winnie the Pooh, Popeye, Rumi, everything.
So just all over.
Just all over. Totally
I love that though.
I tried to make it as
diverse,
as universal or
right.
Yeah, but I'm very proud of it because it really shows my tenacity. I just wouldn't give. It's a little book that could, I would not give up on that little book. And it'd been pitched a number of places and got a lot of rejections. I had quite a few rejections, and I just kept at it.
You have to hear a bunch of no's until you finally get your yes.
Yeah. Especially that first book, the Depression Hates a Moving Target. That one got more rejections. I just was so stubborn with that. But that's, again, my personality. Not everybody's that stubborn.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm also very stubborn, or I wouldn't be doing this. So.
Right. You have to have some serious stamina to do a podcast. I know.
Yeah, it's quite a bit, but beyond worth it. So it's so worth it. So where can we find your books?
So I love this because when I asked my editor, she told me to say wherever fine books are sold.
Ooh.
Isn't she good? She's just good.
I love that.
Yeah, Brenda Knight, she's the editor. She's actually the publisher now at Mango Publishing Group. They published the first couple of books, then the most recent one was published at a different place. But yeah, if you're an Amazon lover, it's there. They're all there. Barnes & Noble, your library can order it. Your independent bookstore. Let's talk about how much we love independent bookstores. So ask your local bookstore to order it. They can get it, any of them. And there are audiobooks of Depression Hates a Moving Target and Make Every Move a Meditation. There are audiobooks. They all have ebooks. And then Depression Hates a Moving Target was actually translated into Korean, which is so much fun. Yeah. And then Make Every Move a Meditation is being translated into German, and it will come out in May. I know,
that's exciting.
I know. This is really, I didn't. My first book wasn't published until I think it was like 55 or something. So it's serious dream come true. Just something I dreamed about and thought would never happen. So
I love
I
that.
just like to tell people, don't give up on your dreams. Just keep chasing your dreams because you
Yeah.
just don't know. Um, you don't know. I mean, it isn't the first book. That's not the book I thought would get published. I have another book that I thought I was going to get published and maybe someday, but not yet. And so you just don't
Hmm.
know.
And as always, guys, we'll have everything linked in the episode description, so you'll be able to find it. And also, I will have her tagged on Instagram when this comes out, so you'll be able to find her that way as well. I will not make it difficult for y'all to find these books because I actually can't wait to dive into them myself. So,
Yay. Thank
but
you.
Nita, again, thank you for coming on. This has been very enlightening and very helpful. And I know I'm taking some things away from our chit chat for my own personal use. So, and I'm sure many others will as well.
That makes me really happy. Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
And thank you for
So,
the work you do. It's just
thank
really
you.
important that we have these voices. I mean, I just love the title of your podcast because talk about a
It's
hot mess. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's been a play on words. It's been my Instagram handle for like 10 years now. I was always the hot mess friend that just like I could not make up the things that I got myself into or things that happened, and I really really love espresso. So, it was just a play on words of Hot Mess Express, except for I really like coffee. So, it's just been my thing. So, when I started this, everybody was like, you got to name it Hot Mess Espresso. And I'm like, okay. So,
It works. It really does.
it does. It's very me. It's very me. It needs no explanation.
That's great.
So, but yeah, I'm so grateful you came on, and yeah, this has been wonderful.
Well, thank you very much. It was my pleasure.